Why did he let her touch him? How dare she touch him? Only you can touch me, baby. It's not clean anymore, it has someone else's scent on it. I have to wash you thoroughly. When the female lead transferred school, I realized that my childhood friend was a villain with Kyo disease. She will be retaliated for imprisoning and mistreating the heroine, and the end will be tragic. I stared at the heroine, lost in thought. Tanmai's childhood friend suddenly spoke up, full of gloom. If you keep looking at her like that, I'll gouge her eyes out. I turned my head and scolded, shut your stupid mouth. Are you an excavator or a gold miner that's so good at digging? If you have free time, do some more homework. My childhood friend, Lu Nuyen, was scolded by me. She went back to doing her homework. I glanced at the bangs on her head that were drooping due to age, and thought to myself, the future great villain, there's only her. Yet, in order to confront the female lead, she did all kinds of indescribable detention and abuse, and was eventually thrown into prison. I was in the middle of a lot of trouble when the female homeroom teacher suddenly called me. Next class, I'll take the Tan Tuet to the teaching room to receive uniforms and meal cards. I looked at the female lead sitting on the other side of the hallway. Just as I was about to nod, Lu Yen's eyes filled with murderous intent glared at her, looking at the Tan Tuet as if wanting to bore a hole in her body. I paused, the words that came to my mouth turned into, "Teacher, I have to go to your math teacher's place next class. Can you ask another student to help?" Lu Laikyan has beautiful, slightly curved peach blossom eyes. Satisfied, she bowed her head. The pen in my hand felt light as if it wanted to fly. I leaned closer and asked, "What were you thinking?" Lu Nuyen was completely defenseless and blurted out, "I want to break her legs." She realized something was wrong and raised her head. "Kukwang!" I slapped her on the back of the neck. "If you keep talking nonsense, I'll break your mouth." Lu Nuyen immediately felt sad. "Then your hand will hurt very much. Or I could just eat poison." I was speechless. Okay, it doesn't seem strange for Lu Laikyan to become a villain. Lu Laikyan has had villainous qualities since childhood. When I was 8 years old, I first met her in the neighborhood. That day it was pouring rain. I held an umbrella and walked past the flower bed and heard a miserable cry. Coming closer to look, I saw Lu Laikyan pounding in the rain, squatting on the ground. The coat in his hand was tightly wrapped around a cat. The cat cried miserably. As soon as it stuck its head out, Lu Laikyan pressed it, over and over again. I felt angry and asked her, "What are you doing?" Lu Laikyan raised her wet face. Her courage had already been scratched by a cat. "I'm protecting it from the rain." She seemed confused, but it seemed like it really wanted to scream. It kept struggling. I told her that the cat was very scared and upset. Lu Laikyan was very confused. I hugged her so tightly, but she was still scared. Why did I understand at that time that Liu's brain circuits like Yan were different from normal people? This year, I've been trying to help her learn how to think like a normal person, but the results don't seem to be very positive. I recall the images I saw of Lu and Yan in the future, lucky with sinister eyes, stubborn, cold smile. Tan Tuet's walking waist without prior information is very limited. I don't know what the resentment between her and Tan Tuet ended up being. According to the novel's motif, the conflict between the female protagonist and the villain is usually caused by the male protagonist, but I don't see a male protagonist anywhere. I lost my mind, thinking the whole class. The next class, I went to the math teacher's room and then lost my mind and returned to class. A sudden incident happened. As soon as I entered the classroom door, I immediately saw the class bully blocking Tan Tuet's desk. Under his feet he stepped on a brand new dress. Scornful voice. A uniform costs 500 yuan, Is it worth wearing for a poor student like you? Nakduk School is a famous aristocratic private school. Every opening year, the school uses high bonuses to train a number of excellent students from other schools. Tatan Tuet is one of them. She is a famous poor student. It seems like I accidentally stepped on your uniform. The bully deliberately stepped on his foot and said in a bad tone, or I'll pay you 2 yuan of laundry money, you're only worth this much. Hidden laughter rang out in the classroom. Tatan Tuet's hand clenched, then relaxed, then clenched again. I had a headache, closed my eyes, walked quickly, went to the staff room to get a new set, and made it up to her. The bully was surprised. Why do you want me to give you 2 yuan as wages? I laughed and said word by word, you're not worth it. The bully unconsciously took a step forward, glanced at something, and then stopped. It's just a set of torn clothes, pay it off. Waiting for him to leave the classroom, I didn't look at Tatan Tuet's reaction and sat back in my seat myself. Lu Nuyen looked at me suspiciously. Why did you help her? I hate school bullying. I take this opportunity to educate her. It is not right for Lu like Yan to be strong and bully the weak. If others anger you, you can only use reasonable measures to retaliate, you know? Imprisonment, using knives, these illegal things are absolutely not allowed. I told a long guy. Lu like Yan was dreamy, as long as I don't make you angry, I won't care. She narrowed her eyes and added a deep sentence, if anyone harms you, I will. I quickly covered her mouth and threw the literature textbook over. There was still room in my head for many such sick sentences. It's better to memorize all the textbooks. At the same time, a light flashed in my mind. Lu Nuyen later treated Tatan Tuet like that, wasn't it because of herself? I began to intentionally keep a distance from Tatan Tuet. Although the story's development is uncertain, to prevent risks, staying away from the female lead is always the right thing to do. Therefore, when we met in the hallway, Tatan Tuet hesitantly wanted to come and thank me. I just glanced at her, coldly turned my head away. Tatan Tuet probably noticed my attitude. Her expression looked a bit hurt, but she didn't continue to come closer. As soon as I breathed a sigh of relief, Lu like Yan appeared from nowhere. You've been paying attention to her lately, her voice was firm, even a little annoyed. She's a new transfer student, I'm the class president, of course I have to pay a little attention. Lu and Yan were dissatisfied, definitely not for this reason, you're lying to me. Don't call it a trick, I'm trying to coax you. I quickly softened my voice. Tan Tuk said, isn't he afraid that you won't be happy, that's why he said that? Even if I lie, it's to coax you. Are you still unhappy? After hearing this, Lu Nuyen's eyes gradually brightened. Kukwang coaxed me, of course I'm happy. She was so happy that she wanted to rush to hug me right in class. I quickly raised a hand to stop him. Lu Nuyen pouted. Tan Tuk hugged my hand. Ka Kwang, why can't you belong to me alone? Don't be an elephant asking for a fairy. Lu like Yan flattered me, rubbing my hand with her face. I immediately softened and patted her head. In the future, stay away from that new transfer student. In case you make enemies from your student days, it's better to stay away. Lu Nuyen hummed in response. I thought she agreed. Unexpectedly, the next day, I saw Lu like Yan blocking Tatan Tuet at the corner of the wall of the teaching building near the stadium. Lu Nuyen placed one hand on the wall, her wild posture blocking Tatan Tuet in front of her. Tatan Tuet frowned and asked impatiently, what are you looking for me for? Lu Nuyen did not answer, just attentively scanned her face, little by little, muttering, there's nothing special about this face. Tatan Tuet's face suddenly turned red and she pushed Lu Nuyen away. Her hands clenched into fists, her eyes spewing anger, if you want to fight, fight, no need to insult me. Lu Nuyen tilted her head and blinked in confusion. Is this an insult to you? But you are too weak. Isn't it an insult if I beat you? As soon as I arrived at the scene, I heard these two sentences from Lu Yen. I just wanted to be able to cover her mouth before Atan Tuet took action. I quickly spoke up. Lu Nuyen, come here. Lu was like Yan, like a small dog that sees its owner, wags its tail, and immediately runs over. Ha ka kwong. I raised my hand and pinched her lips into a speculum shape, ignoring her self-pitying expression. Turn around and apologize to the Tantuet first. Sorry, she has a bit of a mental problem, don't take it personally with her. Seeing me, Tantuet's anger disappeared. She took a deep look at Lu and Yen, then turned to look at me. I breathed a sigh of relief and quickly pulled Lu and Yen away. Nothing, why block someone? Haven't I told you not to randomly cause trouble with others? You've looked at her many times, I want to know what's special about her face. After Lu Nuyen explained, she became happier. Now I know, it turns out you're insulting her. I was speechless. That's it, a literature person who only got 50 points from a young age can help a cat shelter from the rain, and end up harming the cat. She has her own logic. I muttered to Lu Yen, pretending to be absent-minded, turning my head to look back at Tantuet. She remained standing in place. I suddenly met her eyes. Her eyes looked a bit strange. That night, I had a nightmare. In the dream, scenes of Lu and Yen mistreating Tantuet were like a pantomime taking place right before our eyes. Lu Yen pressed Tantuet's head into the water. Lu Nuyen crippled Tantuet's leg. Lu Yen locked people in the basement. No matter how I was next to her to stop her, Lu Yen in her dream did not move. I was so angry that I shouted in her ear in my dream, "Very well, Lu Yen, you're very good. Don't you even listen to what I say anymore? What kind of grudge is worthy of you taking action on yourself? Are you a pig-headed person? If you don't know how to plot, that's fine. You don't even know how to bribe others? If you even attack her, I won't want you anymore." As soon as the last sentence ended, Lu Yen in her dream suddenly raised her head and looked at me incredulously. As soon as she saw clearly, her eyes had turned blood red. I was so desperate that I felt like I was seeing her in the future through a dream. My chest throbbed. I woke up, it was morning. I opened the door with dark circles under my eyes, but I didn't expect to bump into Lu Yen. At 18 years old, Lu Yen squatted in front of my house. As soon as he saw me, his eyes turned red and he accused, "Ka Kwong, I dreamed that you scolded me. You wanted to ignore me because of the new transfer student. Is this an induction dream? What kind of unscience is it?" To comfort Lu Yen, I can only constantly assure her, "Don't worry, I absolutely won't ignore you because of her. But you also can't cause trouble with her for no reason. She won't make you angry, you have to be gentle with everyone." Lu Nuyen squinted her eyes and considered the pros and cons for a moment. "Then you can't look at her, you can't smile at her." "No," I smiled and stroked her hair, "be good, don't bargain." Although I warned Lu Yen on the outside, in my heart I still agreed with her. Absolutely stay away from the Tantuet, you can't let her threaten Lu Yen. I silently made up my mind. Unexpectedly, it seemed like an invisible hand was pushing me towards the Tantuet. At first, it was just regular meetings. I went to the classroom office. Tantuet was asking questions from the teacher. I went into the hallway to get hot water. Tantuet was in line behind me. After I finished physical education, I went back to class to get my things and headed out the door, almost bumping into Tantuet. School is just that, and we're all classmates. I didn't have any doubts until the weekend. I went to the shopping center to buy a birthday gift for Lu Yen. As soon as she entered the elevator, someone followed by Tan Tuet, wearing casual clothes. On the last day, I couldn't hold it in anymore and asked suspiciously, "Are you following me?" Tan Tuet's surprised face immediately turned red. "I don't have one." Her ears also turned red, her face confused. She explained, "My mother works here, I came to give her food." Only then did I notice that she had books and a thermos box in her hand. It was my turn to feel bad and awkwardly smiled. "I'm just joking, don't mind, it's okay." Tan Tuet seemed to have something to say, but the elevator had just arrived at my floor. I didn't want to have much contact with her, so I turned around and walked away quickly. But I walked for a while, suddenly went up 2 floors, and bumped into Tan Tuet in the middle of the hallway. "The bully in class is causing trouble for a cleaning lady." "What kind of cleaning are you doing? The floor is so slippery, do you want people to fall to death? Where's the spirit of your shopping mall? I want to make a complaint." The cleaning lady bowed her back, her face was weather-beaten, full of humility. Sorry, I'll reskin right away." Tan Tuet wanted to speak up to defend her mother, but was stopped by her pleading eyes. She could only suppress her anger and move forward silently. "Grab the cleaning supplies, prepare to replace your mother, and be humiliated by the bully." Sure enough, he pointed his nose at her. "Do you think I wouldn't be able to find you guys if I didn't work at the laundry? Dare to hit my dog, you deserve it." Half a year ago, Tu's mother on the street encountered a muzzleless dog chasing a child. To save people, Tu's mother beat the injured dog. From then on, the gangster, in order to avenge his dog, always targeted Tan Tuet's family. Don't care, I chanted silently. Just as he was about to act like he didn't see it, there was a loud bang. The bully kicked over the trash can, looking like he was about to attack Tan Tuet. "It feels like this bully is too stupid, like a tool NPC." I silently lamented, and finally passed, blocking Tan Tuet's face. I only said once, "Don't let me see you causing trouble with them again in the future." The bully's face changed several times, looked behind me, and suddenly smiled sinisterly. "Lu Nguyen is not here, you better not go out alone." Leaving behind a low threat, the bully left. I was stunned, turned around to say goodbye to Tan Tuet, and was about to leave. As soon as my footsteps moved, my feet were caught by a pile of trash, and I also stepped on a slippery puddle of water. "Be careful," waiting for me to react, Tan Tuet hugged me. Feeling something, I unconsciously looked forward. Immediately I saw Lu standing still, her face gloomy, not far away. In my heart, history said, "It's done. This girl is about to go crazy." Liu's madness like Yen's is without sound. In first grade, some thugs outside the school surrounded me. No matter how much they provoked me, Lu like Yen just silently protected me behind my back. Until someone wanted to pull me up to look at the phone or touch my hand, Lu like Yen squinted her eyes. That night, Lu like Yen took me home and washed my hands for half an hour. She didn't say a word. I was so tired that I accidentally fell asleep. In the middle of the night, I was woken up by the phone ringing from the police station. Lu like Yen beat those thugs into the hospital, almost causing a murder. The police contacted her surrogate father. Her father passed the phone call to me directly. I went to the police station. The first thing I heard was a scolding. His condition is such that his guardian is not present. Why not take him to a mental hospital? Lu like Yen has a personality disorder and severe dependence. Her dependent is me. But on weekdays, besides liking to tell me nonsense, she is always very harmless. That was also the first time I saw her act. It is said that she aborted a person's hand who only touched my wrist for less than a second. Seeing that Lu and Yan were about to return home, she was still angry and didn't bother to talk to me. Without hesitation, I spread my arms wide. Launched close to late afternoon. Lu Nuyen hugged her, from childhood to adulthood. Every time Lu Nuyen wanted to go crazy, I used this trick to comfort her, 100 times the same. But this time she didn't even bother to turn around. Lu was like Yan. I stepped forward, wanting to hold her hand. Before touching, Lu Nuyen suddenly turned around. The next second, I was strangled by her. My back was against the thick cabinet, but I didn't feel any pain. Lu like Yan approached me, with one hand already protecting me. She squeezed my chin, forcing me to look at her in a completely controlled position. But the slightly red corners of her eyes showed weakness. Why did you let her touch you? She must have learned to speak. Her hands were gentle as if caressing fragile objects. I didn't argue, just calmly changed the subject. Lu like Yan, it's so cold, please hug me. Lu Nuyen trembled, using her fingers to caress the exposed flesh on her neck. I'm cold, I said coldly. You smell like someone else, it makes me want to peel off the skin. Then you have to take off my clothes first. I curled the corners of my lips and negotiated with her. After that, you have to bathe me, every inch has to be clean. I want to use shower gel, you use earlobes. Lu like Yan's eyes gradually turned red when I asked. Use her breath to cover me. Lu like Yan finally couldn't bear it anymore and let go. She buried her head in the crook of my neck. His voice choked up, Ko Kwong, you scammer. I slowly hugged her, patting her back to comfort her. Only fool you, not others. Only fool you. She specializes in cool sensations. Lu like Yan choked, you don't need anyone else, you just need me and that's enough. You're angry, it's her, you cry, it's her. I silently sighed out of my mouth, not missing the memories. Well, you're right. Taming a crazy kitten is step 1, grooming success. That night, I showered so much that I almost peeled off a layer of skin. There is the same scent of shower gel in the air. This made Lu and Yan's mood gradually calm down. But she's still not satisfied. How dare she touch you? You should cut off her hand. You only care about her hand, but don't care if I'm hurt. I started taming the crazy puppy step 2. Turn her logic upside down, if you don't support me, I'll knock you down. Would you rather let me fall until my body is bruised and covered in trash? It turns out that in your eyes, her hand is more important than mine. I pretended to be heartbroken and was about to squeeze out 2 tears. Of course, it's not her, how can she be compared to you like Yan? In a hurry, his face was pale and his pubic hair was wet. Ko Kwong, I don't. Of course I believe you. I know, if I fall, you will definitely be heartbroken. So she caught me, I didn't avoid it. I did it all for you. Tears immediately choked back. I encouraged, looking at Lu as Yan. I didn't do that because I care about you. Lu like Yan was stunned, her face slightly confused. Really? I'm not good at grammar, it's really easy to seduce. Patting her head, that's right, don't you still believe me? After coaxing her for half an hour, she gave Lu like Yan some medicine to stabilize her mood. Waiting for her to fall asleep, I have time to review what I went through today. It feels like something isn't right. I was racking my brain and angry. During the day, I clearly wanted to buy a gift for Lu like Yan, and intentionally stayed away from the Tantuet. Why did you bump into her after walking for a while? That area doesn't even have a suitable store to buy birthday gifts. Thinking about what happened in the past few days, I woke up. It's all arranged by the plot. Knew this world was a novel. Tantuet is the female lead. The plot always tries to push me towards the Tantuet. So isn't it possible that I could be the novel's male protagonist? Lu Laikyan is a villain. Will I abandon Lu Laikyan in the future because of the Tantuet? I felt that I couldn't do it, and then I thought that because of the Tantuet, I forgot to buy a birthday gift for Lu Laikyan. This damn plot is controlling me. I do not believe. Without hesitation, he chose to tear up the second story. Tantuet brought a gift for her mother to prepare to thank me. I told her frankly, "I'm helping you, it's completely convenient, you don't need to pay too much attention. Your concern for me is a kind of trouble. It's best for us to keep our distance. I don't want Lu Nuyen to misunderstand. I say that clearly." Tantuet naturally understood what I meant. She was stunned for a moment, bowed her head, and said, "Okay." There was a loss on her face that was hard to hide. Adding in a low voice, "Sorry." In my heart, I also responded, apologized again, then turned away decisively. Lu Nuyen stood not far away, listening to our conversation. Seeing me turn around, she held my hand and ran into the distance. "I hate her, let's stay away from her." A little after that event, Lu Yen's mood stabilized, but she became even more disgusted with the Tantuet. I of course sided with her, treating the Tantuet like a snake. Every time I accidentally met her at school, I acted like I didn't see her. Meeting outside school, seeing her being bullied by people in knock, I pulled Lu Nuyen and ran away, calling security to end the trouble. I also reported the security issue to the Ministry of Education. The next day, there was another patrol around the school. For several consecutive days, Lu and I were like yin. But with the Tantuet, there was not even a glance. The story flared up again, another weekend. I wanted to go buy a gift for Lu Nuyen. I was at the entrance of the area, hesitating whether I should call Lu or Yen to come with me or not, when two strong men rushed in. As soon as I raised my head, a towel soaked in anesthesia covered my face. I just kept getting kidnapped. I woke up, my head was dizzy, my eyes were pitch black. In my ear, someone was calling out worriedly, "Ka Kwong! Ka Kwong!" Hearing this voice, I silently cried out, it was the Tantuet. This female lead is truly a goddess. I was helpless, struggled a few times, and found that my hands were tightly tied behind my back. "Ka Kwong, you're awake." Tantuet crawled from the side, "Don't be afraid, I will think of a way." I wondered, how did you know it was me? Aren't your eyes blindfolded? Do not have. Even though it's kidnapping, why is there such discrimination? I'm indignant. Suddenly, from far and near, footsteps came. Next was the Tantuet's unbelievable voice, questioning, "Is it you?" A mocking laugh rang out above his head. The scales covering my eyes were roughly pulled off, and light suddenly flooded in. I squinted my eyes, saw a familiar face, and was immediately speechless. It's the bully NPC again. He was still young. What did he do wrongly to do this kidnapping? This is clearly not the big bear kidnapping me, but the plot that is kidnapping me. You have finally fallen into my hands. The bully kicked Tantuet to the ground, then began his villainous dialogue. "And you, brat. I told you not to meddle in other people's business." The bully kicked my shoulder. I unconsciously dodged aside. The bully stopped, was stunned for a moment, and smiled strangely. "Good job avoiding it, I'll see where you can avoid it later." After saying those cruel and unclear words, he turned and left the warehouse. I looked at his back, towards the open warehouse door about 3 meters away. Outside is a lush green scene, seemingly a forest. "Ka Kwong, are you okay?" I was calculating escape plans when I heard Tantuet's voice. Turning her head to look, her hand was also blinded and she fell to the ground, still unable to get up. Relax, think about how to escape. Not bothering to give any advice, I frowned. I had a bad feeling. This is not the treatment that the male lead should have. I am like Bok Noyet Kwong who died earlier. Thinking about it, I still decided to give Tan Tuet a few words. If something happens to me today, you get rescued, remember to take Lu Nuyen to the hospital. She will. I hadn't finished my last words when Tan Tuet interrupted me excitedly. I won't let anything happen to you. This is not what you said. Anyway, now it seems like the plot wants something to happen to me. I said if you remember, you must immediately take Lu Nuyen to Nam Sun Sanatorium. The doctors over there know what to do. At this point, I'm still a little lucky. The gangster confiscated the phone and watch with a tracking device attached to me. Willow like Yan will definitely not find her way here in the short term. Thinking back, the story wouldn't have let her find her way here. Liu's birthday gift like Yen's couldn't be bought. Please help me buy a lot of things for her. Anyway, just say I'll give it to her and she'll be happy. I quickly gave him instructions, all about things related to Lu Nuyen. If Lu Nuyen causes trouble for you in the future, you can drag me out. Having finished speaking, I closed my eyes. I died, so Lu Nuyen went crazy, always taking revenge on Tan Tuet. Sorry to Tan Tuet, she blamed herself, her eyes red, her voice hoarse. I sighed, it's not her fault. There was no time to comfort her either. Having finished speaking, I stood up and slowly moved towards the warehouse door. The warehouse seemed to be located in a remote corner of the forest, surrounded by luxuriant trees. The bully didn't know where he was going, he ran into the forest, maybe he still had a way to live. I was thinking about saving myself when Tan Tuet had difficulty getting up. She looked at the situation outside and quickly thought. Almost without hesitation, she said. Later I will attract his attention, you will take the opportunity to run away. I will try to stop him. Before I could react, the bully came out from behind the warehouse, holding a long stick in his hand. Looking from a distance, it was scary. A cry came from my ear, Tan Tuet. Staggering, he ran towards the bully, his hands were dizzy and it was difficult to keep his balance, so he used his strength to rush into the gang's body, wrapping his legs tightly around the opponent, not letting him move. I gritted my teeth, bowed my head and ran towards the woods. After running for a while, the flat ground under my feet suddenly collapsed, catching me off guard. I fell down. The moment I fell, I thought the story was a mess. Waiting for my body to stabilize on the ground, I discovered that my hands were free. A bit uncertain again. Looking around, there are familiar buildings in the area. I was standing in the rain, not far away. Lu Nuyen was squatting next to a flower bed, holding a shirt in her hand. Not long after, Junior Ka Kwong approached her with an umbrella and asked, "What are you doing?" The familiar scene recurred. I stared blankly, suddenly realizing that this was the world of the original that I, as an audience member, had returned to 10 years ago. 10 years ago, 8-year-old Ha Ka Kwong met Lu Nuyen in the neighborhood and found her to be a strange child. He took her into the rain house, arranged things for the cat, and then didn't want to pay attention to her anymore. Willow like Yen wrapped around him again. She doesn't know where she found out his home address. Every day he stops at his door, bringing strange things, iron nails, insect specimens, bones. Lu Nuyen said those were the gifts her father left behind before he passed away. But her favorite thing is still the indoor swing. At the age of 9, Ha Ka Kwong finally accepted the invitation to come to his house. Lu Nuyen saw the swing she introduced, a huge custom-made clothes drying rack, hanging on the balcony, with a small rope hanging in the middle. Lu, as Yen said, when she was young, her father often took her on the swing and hung her up with a rope until the rope broke. Ha Ka Kwong was so scared that he ran away, hiding from her. For a whole year. At the age of 10, He Kachang's father and stepmother brought their newborn child and prepared to move to the north. They left Ha Ka Kwong here and told him, "You're grown too, stay here in the house." Ha Ka Kwong stood at the door of the area, looking in the direction they left for a long time. He looked for a long time, Lu Nuyen looked at him for a long time, until it got dark. Lu Nuyen just reached out to him, "Do you want to come home with me?" Ka Kwong held her hand. Two children who no one needed, and from then on relied on each other. They both thought they would stay like that, together until the end of their lives. Until that year, there was apparently a new student transferring in. He Kachang in this world is not conscious, he does not see future images. Therefore, every time he met Tatan Tuet being bullied, he stood up to face Liu's dissatisfaction like Yen. He also tried to stay away from Tatan Tuet, but the arrangement of the plot made it impossible for him to avoid it. He couldn't ignore his innocent classmates being bullied. Gradually, he began to forget. He forgot to buy Lu a birthday present like Yen, and forgot to take care of her possession. Even forgetting her will make her sick. Lu Nuyen went crazy, locked him in the room, cried and asked him, "Why don't you need me anymore?" Ka Kwong was confused and asked again, "Why don't I need Lu Nuyen?" "But you and Natan Tuet, mentioning this name is like starting some work." Ka Kwong suddenly smiled and said, "I want to like Natan Tuet." Lu Nuyen doesn't understand what liking is. Since childhood, she was hated by her father and grew up in a distorted world that even the normal Tam Quan could not learn how to understand like. She relied entirely on instinct, wanting to lock Ka Kwong in the house, wanting to destroy Natan Tuet. But she relied on instinct and was completely unable to harm Ka Kwong. She could only let him run out time after time after time let him stand next to Natan Tuet. Until the gang kidnapped Ka Kwong, because Natan Tuet took a knife and died. Ka Kwong died, Lu Nuyen also went crazy. She was locked up in a mental hospital and treated like a wild animal for 3 years. It's also not okay to commit suicide. She learned how to suppress the madness. After going out, she immediately began to take revenge on Natan Tuet. She wanted to kill Natan Tuet, but she never killed anyone, because she thought that Natan Tuet was the person Ka Kwong liked. She just borrowed this to live on. Until one day, when she attacked Natan Tuet, she vaguely heard a voice say, "If you continue to attack her, I won't want you anymore." Lu Nuyen cried and threw her child away. She pushed herself, endured the glare, and was locked up in prison. Besides the story, I shed tears, following Liu's footsteps like Yen. It's like replacing Yi Kachang in this world and accompanying her for many more years. I kept walking and didn't know when I arrived at the prison. Just like that, I met Lu Nuyen, 23 years old, in another world. She was wearing a prison uniform, her hair was messy, exhausted, withered, leaning against the prison wall. She looked very bad, like someone about to die. Lu Nuyen. I thought Lu Nuyen would consider me an illusion, or fall into crazy obsession. But she raised her head to look at me, only for a moment, her eyes became calm. I slowly walked over and squatted in front of her. "Lu Nuyen, sorry, don't cry." Lu Nuyen raised her hand and gently placed it on my cheek. "I'm very happy that you came to find me and not Natan Tuet." I quickly wanted to hold her hand. "I don't like Natan Tuet, you know." Lu Nuyen looked at me and smiled softly. I made a deal with the story. I was stunned, stupidly listening to Lu Nuyen's explanation. While giving up tormenting Datan Tuet, she realized the existence of world consciousness. So, she made a deal with the plot, using her death in this life to complete the consummation of the plot. In exchange, I can have a glimmer of hope for life. My eyes couldn't help but heat up. I choked up and muttered, Lu Nuyen, you're so stupid, without you, I can't live. Lu Nuyen bowed her head and rubbed my forehead. Go home, don't be afraid, I forgot you. Before I could even open my mouth to say I love you, I suddenly felt a loss of weight and dizziness. Willow-like Yan, in the blink of an eye, I returned to the original world, falling on the path in the forest. My hands were still blinded, my mind was dizzy. I shook my head. From far away I heard the sound of rapid footsteps, getting closer and closer. I realized I was still in a life or death situation, trying to get up. The sound of footsteps was approaching behind. Ka Kwong, thunder in the clear sky. I turned my head back. Lu Nuyen, despite everything, rushed to hug me. Ka Kwong, she quickly retreated, helping me take off the light. Hands tremble, dangerously. I looked at the tears forming on her eyelashes and gently comforted her, Lu Nuyen, I'm okay. Lu Nuyen cried even harder. Her fingers ran across the red mark from the rope on my wrist. Softly asked, does it hurt? I held her cold hand tightly and shook my head. Don't worry about me. Let's go see how Datan Tuet is over there. Lu Nuyen's pupils contracted sharply. She raised her head, suddenly becoming calm. When I arrived, I didn't see anyone else. She was running this way. She's okay. I breathed a sigh of relief and heard her say in a bland tone, if you don't feel secure and want to go, just go see her. I was surprised to see Liu's tense face, but trying to appear unconcerned like Yen's. I want to go, will you let me go? Lu Nuyen turned away. It's up to you. If you like it, just like it. Just don't disappear. I turned her face and smiled. Lu like Yan, I don't like anyone. Lu Nuyen was stunned, her throat emitted a cry like a small animal. Both fell into my arms. I stopped and slowly hugged her. Lu Nuyen has no natural talent, but she still loves me. Fate is unpredictable, only love is the highlight of the turning point. We will eventually break the plot's arrangement, arriving at the ending we choose. Side story Datan Tuet. Datan Tuet, with the determination to risk death, ran towards the gangster. She hadn't even touched her body yet when she suddenly felt a loss of weight under her feet as she took down Ka Kwong, who was watching his story, and Lu Nuyen. In reality, Datan Tuet is also watching Ka Kwong. She saw that her first meeting with Ka Kwong was not the day she transferred schools but half a year earlier. Half a year ago, her father was seriously ill and transferred to a hospital in the city for treatment. In order to take care of her father, her mother stayed in the city to find a job, and she stayed here to go to school. One day, when she received a phone call, her mother cried and said her hospital fees were lost. Waiting for her to rush to the hospital, she saw Ka Kwong carrying a plastic bag and talking to the counter staff. On the other side, there was a girl who lost her hospital bills. I found this, you guys check it out. If it's right, give it back to her. Datan Tuet looked in the direction he pointed and saw her mother. Without waiting for her to react, Ka Kwong said something to the staff. After speaking, he turned around and walked towards her. For some reason, in that fleeting moment, Datan Tuet tensed up, tightening her chin. Waiting for Ka Kwong to leave, she relaxed and led her mother to the counter. She recognized that bag, and also recognized the patchwork of coins in the bag. It's just that her mother counted twice, confused, and said 2,000 yuan too much. The staff smiled and said, "You two are kind enough to help, just take it." That was the first time Tatan Tuet met Ka Kwong. Tatan Tuet secretly imagined many times about meeting again with Ha Ka Kwong. She thought she had to tell him thank you and tell him that she would pay. But when she actually met Ka Kwong again, she understood that they were completely from two different worlds. Ha Ka Kwong basically doesn't need her apology. He just told her, "Your concern for me is a kind of trouble." More importantly, next to him there is a Lu Nuyen. The story's development was completely beyond her expectations. Tatan Tuet in this world received Ha Ka Kwong's favor over and over again, was saved by Ha Ka Kwong over and over again, and came close to the sun in her heart. She even received a smile from Ika-chan. In that moment, Tatan Tuet was both confused and a bit extreme. Tatan Tuet in this world, until Ka Kwong died in her arms, Tatan Tuet suddenly realized the price of this difference. Ha Ka Kwong is not surprised. Tatan Tuet couldn't breathe at that moment. She seemed to sympathize with Tatan Tuet's pain in that other world. But what about defeating Ka Kwong? Even if he sees this world in his eyes, there will always only be Lu Nuyen. He saw Liu's pain like Yen's when she lost him, but he didn't see her attachment to him. He saw Liu's madness and depravity like Yen, but did not see her self-redemption. Lu Nuyen took revenge. No matter how many times she harmed her, Tatan Tuet never resisted once. But Ha Ka Kwong did not see these things. He didn't see her. Tatan Tuet both cried and laughed, leaving that world. Seeing the gang leader, I don't know why he fell into a coma at the top. She ran to find Ka Kwong. In front of the forest, meet Lu Nuyen. Lu Nuyen glanced at her. Tatan Tuet suddenly slowed down her steps. She knew she didn't need to follow anymore, but she still didn't feel secure. She slowly walked over and immediately heard those words. "Lu like Yen, I don't like anyone, I humiliate myself." Tatan Tuet clenched her hands, laughed at herself, then turned her head away. She really wants to steal someone else's son, but she doesn't deserve it.